for the weekend. I was there in San Diego at the Pachanga Arena. Emanuel Navarrete escapes with a controversial not win. It gets he at first he escapes with a win, then it's overruled to a no contest against Emanuel Suarez from the Philippines. These two put on one of those Mexico Filipino wars. It was a pretty damn good fight. It had an anticlimactic ending because the fight gets stopped on the cut. It looks like on a replay that Suarez cut Navarrete with a left hand. And for me to just get into the fight for a minute, because I was there, and we'll talk quickly about Raymond Murataya winning his first world title in the co-main event too. Navarrete was ripe for the picking, and I kind of knew he would be heading in because last December in Arizona to close the year, he wins his rematch with Oscar Valdez by knockout. And he said after the fight, what was interesting is I only have a few more fights left in me, and then I want to be done. And that raised bells in my head, like, okay, so he's already looking at his exit. Raheem, we all know Larry Merchant. Once you start talking about retirement, you got one foot out the door. So he was right for the taking over the weekend. He's always been, in people's eyes, sloppy, but he has a beautiful awkwardness to him. Actually, I remember watching Navarrete with you at the Garden Theater. I think Lomachenko was fighting Pedraza and Nejo. Remember, he was fighting Dogbe. He was fighting Isaac
Yeah.
Dogbe at the Garden. And I remember you were breaking down that fight well about how Dogbe had to get inside or he was, cooked by Navarrete. He couldn't, anyway, he did cook him. And Navarrete, at his best, puts guys in a blender. He has an awkward, deceptive ranginess to him where it always looks like that chin is flailing about and it's open, but it's a trap. You let your hands go, and he gets his head awkwardly off the line. Boom, the uppercut gets thrown from a long range that it's not supposed to be thrown from. And he just had a very awkward, good rhythm. But I didn't see that kind of movement. He wasn't putting Charley Suarez in the blender. And the punches were having more of an effect on him. And between Navarrete always getting in wars, he's been one of the true action stars. And stars, I have to use as a relative term. He's not selling pay-per-views and stuff, but he's been one of the real action stars in boxing the last half decade. And it reminds me of Maidana after that first fight with Floyd Mayweather. I remember me and you went down to Robert Garcia's gym down there in California, and you already got the sense this dude, because he can't stay out of wars, that's the kind of style he has, is about ready to be done in his early 30s because
Hmm.
one fight for them is 4 or 5 fights for other fighters because of the kind of style of which they get into fights. So Navarrete wasn't taking the punches as well, but I still thought he was ahead at the time of this fight being called off. But it should have been called due to a punch, should have been a TKO. And I give Navarrete a lot of credit because I see a guy who's seeing his exit and not taking the punches as well, but he's a dog. He's a dog to the very end. Even if he's thinking of exiting the sport already, he's not gonna let his balls hang all the way to the
Hmm.
ground. He put on another exciting war, but he's slipping. He's slipping right now. Raheem, you heard about the stoppage. You got any takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Sean, these guys who are in war after war after war, their careers tend to be short because the body can only take so much. When you have a fighter like Navarrete whose name rings out, and you're right, he's a star, not a superstar. I think it's a weight thing. Down at those lower divisions, it's just so hard to become a global star and sell pay-per-views. I think you can count probably on one hand the guys who have really been able to do that, even once or twice. But I can't even think of anybody at that when they were in those weight classes.
Morales,
Um,
Barrera, Marquez, the big Pacquiao,
right,
that era, that era.
that era of guys. But remember when we're talking HBO and Showtime and
Yes.
shit like that. But once we get to like the real pay-per-view era, even they had to be a little heavier before they started making pay-per-view shows. But I only say that to say that with Charlie Suarez, right,
Yeah.
is a fighter who is not going to have the name recognition, who is at that point where beating a guy like Navarrete puts him on the map and creates an opportunity for his biggest earning potential, potentially in his career. Like these are trajectory changing nights, and we have to get it right. You can't have, yes, I get it. Like, listen, better than a decision for Navarrete as a no contest, but it's not acceptable because we live in 2025 where we have the technology to find out on the night what the correct answer is and get it right, then not make some half measure compensation after the fact where he doesn't get, and I'm talking about Juarez now. Now, maybe he doesn't go on to win that fight if they don't stop it on the cut, but it stopped on a cut. The cut was created by a punch. That's a TKO. This guy deserves not only the win, but he deserves the win on the night in front of the crowd that was watching the fight, and his post-fight interview and his hand raised that picture and that moment to become whatever kind of level of star he is going to be. So this no contest is not enough. And I think it's just a travesty in boxing at this stage to not utilize the technology available across the board. Replays, making the call, changing what the ref said or saw. And these refs are not, obviously, not infallible. I'm not even saying that he did something terribly wrong. He just called it wrong. It happens in football. It happens in basketball. It happens punch in the strike zone. We got to get it right. And these guys, they had only got the fight on the night and the opportunity to create a living for themselves and wealth for their next generation and the level of stardom that they can attain based on what they do right there in that moment. This is not a team sport. There's not another Saturday in 6 days. There's not a multitude of opportunities. There's nobody to pass the ball to. If you don't have that moment, we don't really know what Juarez was robbed, what we robbed from him on that night. We don't know what the opportunities would be if he had that moment of victory over Navarrete. And what I'm saying is, this is a great example of a travesty, and no one's going to be screaming about it from the mountaintops because these guys aren't superstars, because Navarrete isn't a huge name, because Juarez wasn't bringing some pay-per-view, marquee status to the fight. So it's just going to come and go, and people will be like, oh, they made it a no contest. Oh, good, they fixed it. It's not fixed, man. We have AI now that can give you accurate punch stats and analytics. We can create an AI judge that is accurate and consistently so, and then backed up by data. We can replay these moments, whether or not something is a knockdown, whether or not it's created by a punch or a headbutt. We can overrule the referee in the Tank Davis fight and call that a knockdown. We can then go to the scorecards created by AI, and we can have some human, just like you do in football, reviewing the AI and reviewing the replay, and ultimately a human makes a decision. We can still be in that space, but we need now to come into the 21st century. We're a quarter way in already, and start giving the fighters the respect they deserve by using everything at our disposal to give them the decisions that they've earned. This is all I'm saying, man. This is like, it's unacceptable at this stage. This is a blight on the sport right now. And somebody somewhere has to just say enough is enough. Let's use what we got.
Yeah, and in real time, right after Navarrete's hit with the left hand, his head does pop up, and it looks like there could have been a slight clash, but the replay showed the left hand land at a certain way that looked like it tore at the flesh and caused the cut. And now that what's done is done, it's only going to likely be a no contest. The California Commission's being appealed by Suarez's team. Those appeals likely never go anywhere. You never know. We have replays now, so we'll see. But barring something happening, which it never does, Navarrete's got to give Suarez a rematch. Is what's got to happen.
Yeah.
And you look at it like Suarez is this B-side fighter that got the raw deal, and he did. But for Navarrete, who's always given such a war every time he's in the ring, it's like, okay, you caught a break. Maybe the boxing gods, the boxing angels gave you a break on this one. And what you have to do to repay that favor is give this guy another fight in Charley Suarez. And it'd be a good another, Mexico, Philippines, get that thing heated up again. But Navarrete, the story here is that, he's slipping, and he's one of these action fighters. And then some of it, I think, again, is psychological. I don't think it's so much the physical part is him not making weight anymore. His body doesn't look good at the weight. He's a guy, I think, that wants to eat himself out of the division, but he's not a lightweight. He is a 130 pounder. He just doesn't like making the weight anymore. And that goes hand in hand with that psychological, I'm tired of this grind. I'm tired of getting punched in the face as many times as I do in these title fights. So, we'll see. He should give Suarez his rematch. Top Rank should have been trying to make a unification by now with him and Oshaki Foster. Maybe they don't feel like there's really any money there. But Navarrete will be fun to watch until the very end. But it does look like we're getting towards the end part of his prime right now. So
Yeah, I hear you. You're talking like a classic boxing writer. Like,
yeah,
okay, Navarrete got a nod. He,
yeah,
had a
yeah.
good
We're so
night and all
immune to
that.
the bullshit. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but it's bullshit,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
What about Suarez? What about the night he was denied? There's nothing they can do after the fact that will bring the elation of a victory on the night. Nothing that they can do that will bring the spotlight to him that I would right now be thumbing through Instagrams of him with his hand raised.
Yep.
Well, people would be like, well, who's this Suarez guy? We'd be looking at highlights. We'd be seeing the cut and we'd be congratulating him on a great win. And then we would not only get the rematch, but
Match.
it would be Navarrete who wants it because he's legitimately lost this fight and needs to get back, and then it's up to Suarez to defend and prove that it wasn't a fluke. Like that's what the actual narrative
Yeah, yeah.
is.
Instead,
And it's
Navarrete after the fight was like, they asked him, "Do you want the rematch?" And he was like, "No, no, no, no. We'll see." That's
yeah, which is again, of course, we all know what we'll see means. We'll see how we can get out of it.
I don't think he will. I think they'll make this rematch, but you're
You
you're you're
know,
right. I can't disagree with anything you
that's
said.
all I'm saying. And it ain't down to these two guys. It's not personal to them. They're just the latest, most great example of what needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed across the board. So we don't even have these discussions anymore. It's like it's fixable. So
Yeah.
many things in boxing are fixable, and we just won't do it.